I always think that people, when I work with the young ones over at Idol, the young ones who are athletic and they're athletes, and those that are on stage, whether they're dancers or singers, the discipline that it takes and the part of being a part of a team and or ensemble are very similar of what it takes to succeed in athletics and in the arts. I mean, athletics are a form of an art, really, and it's a form of theater.
It's a team. Yeah, we all have to do a performance. I talk to young groups, and I talk to them about all I learned in the business. I learned in the chorus, and if you look at the last two letters of chorus, it's about us.
It's a team.
There's no me or I in chorus.
Right.
It's us, and that mental. And I will say, my brother teaches was the teacher, the gym teacher. He was a track star in college, and my nephew was in the semi-pros baseball. So my father, of course, loved sports, and I participated in sports. I was in gymnastics, which was a very, very cool thing because you could do some things.
What was your specialty?
For me, and it was just I was a tumbler. Back in the 1950s, they had the high bar and the parallel bars and all that, and the flying rings. That was the big deal. But very different now. And I would not even say, it's just, I would say that I'm not anyway. But the fact that I could do a round off back handspring, you can imagine having somebody able to do that and is a trained dancer. Well, guys and dolls and shows like that, man, they snap me right up, and that's one of the things that complemented the two. But you're right about participation in choral groups, dance groups, anything. And I've said this before about you've got to get your kids connected to something, or they'll attach themselves to anything.
I like that.
That's great.
You gotta get
and I've been a choir director for 12 years, and I've never heard anybody say the last two letters of chorus is us. And that's a great reminder that there are a lot of things like in theater shows and all those that they're team building, and I think all three of us agree that there's so much more that comes out of the arts than just the performance, but the motivation and the validation and the team building, the social skills, and all of those things that are so very important you learn through the arts. And that's a great reminder, that
it really is. And it's not about me. It's about we. And you turn that M upside down and you make that a we. We look great together, not I look great. Because if you try to kick higher than the others, or everybody else is doing a double pirouette, I'm going to do 4. Well, the fact is that you're no longer part of the group, and being being committed to your team, your group, and then in life that organization and what you do in there so that you make the team win, rather than try to stand out and look better than them, but the team loses.
It's almost like a hologram, because you talk about the we or the us, but that's what the arts also presents about humanity. I mean, we're kind of like their mirror to who they are. We teach them from people's successes and failures in stories that we tell on stage and plays, or we teach them to feel, and it's okay to go deep when you're singing an opera or a music. And so when people hear arts that have nothing to do with art except they think TV is it, what would you say to them in terms of why it's important to even go and just see something live on stage?
Well, of course, I'm in a theater that focuses on young people. If you're watching a film or something on television, the director and that editor is deciding on what you are going to look at. When we go to the theater and we see it, instantaneously we can go between the characters. We get to hear the interaction, and we get to see the emotion, and particularly for young audience members, where they get to see a play where there's this dynamics going on. They're switching back and forth so that they can experience that. It's like they say, oh, but somebody dies in that play. Well, the fact is that in that environment, that's safe. And I've had people go, "Oh, no, no, no." I said, "So you want to wait till Grandma passes on for them to feel it in real?" But think about how we can prepare ourselves for life, how we fit in, and how much time we have, and what we can do, and what impact we can make in whatever time we have.
That's really beautiful. I never thought about that, to be able to say to someone, so this is the way you teach them about that loss. You want to wait until it's major and they don't know how to feel or how to, what's appropriate. That's great.
And I think, too, that theater allows our imagination to run wild. I think, like you said, with TV and movies, it tells us what to think.
Yes.
And in live theater, I just saw Warhorse last night, one of the most brilliant theatrical pieces I've ever seen. And you cannot capture what happened on that stage in a movie. Or I mean, I was like ducking, looking for the bombs to go, whizzing past my head, because I was able to just be in that place, and that my imagination was able to run wild. It's just different than.
But it was a puppet. It was only a puppet. But yet, at that moment, when they have to put that horse down, and he has that bayonet, and he's holding it up there, and he's going to strike, and I'm watching my wife and the audience all together going, "Oh, and it's a puppet."
Yeah.
But
lets your imagination run wild.
But imagine, and that moment that the artists. The artistry of the puppeteers, the artist of the creators of that, and that performing artist that showed the agony and the pain in which he was feeling when he had to take that horse down. It was certainly
Just hearing it.
Oh,
Well, why do we need that? Why do we need to be told stories like that on stage?
because it tells us how we are, and it reflects us as human beings, and how there's a great example of compassion. He takes the horse down because it was so badly abused in moving the war equipment, and when they talk about that, the beast and the man, and you think, actually, the beast is really man doing these terrible things to one another, rather than these animals that are doing their best to support mankind in whatever way they can. It's a great example of that. I love that, seeing it, and again, that's why I love being at the Rep with us, being able to introduce theater to young people, often for the first time. And I can remember, I have no idea what the play was, but I can remember I was sitting in the house, I was house right, and I don't think I was more than 4 rows back, and I was off to the side. And all I remember of the play was this man was very mean to this woman, and she started to cry, and I felt it. And then he's trying to make up, and suddenly I get a sense of what it is to be tender, to be caring.
You felt it yourself.
I felt it, and suddenly the lights came up, and there were people around. I didn't know that they were there. I was so immersed in that, and I didn't want anyone else to see it. I was crying, and it hurt. I hurt for her, and then I hurt for him for what he had done, but the fact that he was trying to make amends. So how we deal with one another is so brilliantly. I mean, playwrights, they invest so much time, and they find language that tells us how we're supposed to feel and how we're supposed to interact as human beings to one another.
And nothing moves the soul and the heart like the arts do. I mean, there's nothing that compares to it. I don't think.
Well, music tells us how to feel. It just that somber minor key just gets you.
It takes you, and it doesn't tell you in words. It just leads you
speaks
in
to your heart.
energy and feeling.
Yes.
And the artists that can bring those feelings, you're right, they teach us empathy and compassion. I can empathize because I'm you, but wait, I'm also you. We are each other. We are the teachers. And why shouldn't someone be taught how to feel? We get taught how to comb our hair, how to put an outfit together. What are you wearing? We get taught so many
I need
things.
some help on that one.
So why wouldn't we need people on a stage to entertain us, but by playing with emotions that we can go home and go, oh, I know what that is.
And Gene, you're already imparting so much wisdom to us. Take us back to 1970 again. When you walked into Walt Disney World, you were a ballet master.
I actually did not start at Walt Disney World. In 1970, I was on the international tour of a show called Disney on Parade. It was the first production was over the top. Way too big, like 115 in the cast. There was like a crew of 40 that was traveling. There was 28 trucks. It was the biggest show in the country. Well, it was too big to get set up in the amount of time they had, so they had to keep cutting stuff, and they got it down to 17 trucks and a cast of 85. And that's when I joined. I joined right after they opened, and when I would give ballet class and kind of conditioning, and then I would do the audition and cast, and part of the publicity was we would have an audition in every city, so I would do that, and so having somebody that had done films that I did Dr. Dolittle, and I worked with Elvis and
You worked with Elvis Presley?
yeah, oh, that was fun. Yes, and I did the comeback
I love how he just
special.
said that like it's nothing. And I worked with Elvis. You know,
Yeah,
no big deal.
so I had this kind of resume, and they would kind of punch that up. It was giving the audition. It's all right. I'd give the audition, and then I'd keep a file on that. Well, I think over time, I discovered, or they discovered, that I had an odd memory, and it's still very, very strange to me how this works. But I would audition someone, or I interview someone, and somehow there's a card catalog where I would log in this information, and I would be, we would have to do some change in casting, and I would say, oh, I remember we had this guy. He was about 5'6". He had kind of sandy colored hair, and Cincinnati, and I think he would be absolutely right. And people would go through, and they would see the picture and all that, and we could go, and that's how we would. So I sat in those meetings, and the same thing happened at Disney when I started the staffing. They'd go, well, we need a person. I go, yeah, there was a guy I interviewed, and it was like up here, they're in orbit. And when we need them, somehow they just came in, and all right, I think I have the person for you. So, but to get back to the question, I did Disney on Parade, went around the world with that show, and then I went back and I was working at Disneyland, and the vice president said in 1977, Gene, would you go to a place in Florida called Walt Disney World only until we can find someone to go there permanently, because when all of us at Disneyland, back then, you didn't get transferred to Florida, you got sentenced.
We were Siberia.